Today on Midlife Conversations, I'm so excited because I've got one of my favorite people in the whole planet here, Lisa Nichols. Those of you that don't know Lisa, you're sleeping under a rock because she is just absolutely incredible. But Lisa changed my life without knowing me, 15 years ago. 15 years ago, many of you have heard my story when I was in my rock bottom space. And that's a whole nother conversation for another time. But in my darkest moments, when I was just didn't want to get on with my day, when I was feeling the weight of the world, I just had a baby. It was back in 2007, 2008, when the housing market and the stock market had crashed. My whole life felt like it was falling apart. Many of you walked through that time period too. But I remember having a moment, just a moment of what if there's something more for me? What if there's something more? And I remember walking home with that conversation in my head. What if there's something more? What if there's something more? And just like many of us experience, I had that voice that kept popping up, interrupting me. No, you're a loser. No, you're too old. No, you're overweight. And I had to keep shutting that voice down as I walked home going, but what if there's something more? And I'll never forget, I got home, I turned on the TV, and one of my favorite people, Oprah, was on, and she had a guest, Lisa Nichols. And Lisa was speaking about vision and possibility and focusing forward. And she changed my life in that moment, because from that moment on, I became a new person. I started focusing on the vision of what I wanted versus the circumstances of what is. And I'm so happy today to say that years later, I met Lisa amongst friends. She became not only a close friend of mine, but my coach. She helped elevate me to a whole nother level with my speaking, with my audience, with my vision. So thank you so much, Lisa, for being here today.
Oh my God, it is my pleasure as a sister friend first, and then as a fellow unicorn, just figuring things out. I listened to your story and I know your story, and I go, God, I think we've all had a moment where we needed to decide who were we going to become.
Yeah.
And don't hold me hostage to who I've been. Please hold me accountable to the woman I'm becoming.
Oh, so true. It's funny because when I actually met you in person, I almost had forgotten that moment.
I remember.
And you and I were talking, and you were asking me about my method with fat loss. And I was telling you, and I said, oh, I take people through this process. They decide, and then they create their vision. And as I said the word vision, I had this, like a ghost walked in the room, and you said, what? And I said, oh my gosh, this is deja vu. And I told you that story.
I remember your eyes. Your eyes were so big because you were connecting the dots. I believe that there are parts of our life that will remind us how we got to who we are today, how we got, and that moment occurred. And it was pretty beautiful. It made us connect at a whole different level. I was grateful. I'm always grateful to hear if I helped to be a part of a bridge over troubled waters.
Well, not only were you a part of that bridge then, but you were instrumental in me changing my entire brand recently to Midlife Conversations and moving in that direction. And that came from, I had this full circle moment of, I need you in my life. I don't know what it's going to mean, but I need you in my life. How do I coach with you? I basically begged with your full roster. We made it happen. And
you were very convincing.
But our first session together, you pulled it out of me again. I mean, that is what I wanted, was vision from you. Yep. And that's not actually even why we're doing that just podcast today, but I wanted to share that story. The reason I'm doing this today is I wanted Lisa for help with vision, but what I ended up getting from her was so much more than that, not just helping me to redefine my next level vision, but learning how to use my voice to get it to a next level. Now, I was one that could say I public speak, I would speak on many stages, but not at the level I wanted to be or knew was possible for me until I started working for you.
Yeah. So, one of the reasons why what I'm so excited about in this season of my life is helping women identify their true voice, the vibration. Every single one of us has our own unique vibration. And I think we rob ourselves of our vibration, of our unique sound, because we're looking at other people and we're comparing. And Benjamin Franklin says, comparison will always be the thief of all your joy. And so this season, for years, I didn't use my voice. I kind of thought I had one, but if I said something, it was just so that I was approved, I was liked, I was validated, or I can avoid persecution. I didn't speak it I didn't speak it in its full uniqueness. I didn't own the full grandeur of my unicorn, my me. And so a part of your getting clarity, a part of your choosing this new path was courageously being willing to use your voice for what the divine has given you your voice for in this season. 15 years ago, it looked different. You're a new mom, you know, your wife, you're figuring things out that way. You're in fat loss. You have a new season, and seasons aren't spring, summer, winter, fall. And seasons aren't just for a moment. Seasons can be over the span of 20 years, you know, and I think one of the biggest opportunities that could look like a challenge, which is why I'm so excited to be on your podcast, is that when you're in your midlife time, you pretty much are in a new season. You're in the season of reset, reinvent, reinvigorate, recalibrate, re-choose, redesign. Like, you're in that season, which is why our coaching was so delicious, because I met you in that season and help you to discover the voice that was unspoken.
Now, Lisa, before we go further on this, because there's so much I want women to hear from you, could you just tell a little bit about your journey? Not just, I want to hear a little bit about the beginning journey, because I forget that people don't know your original story, but also what you've changed in midlife, because I mean, you're a newlywed. Like, there's so much that you actually created and changed in midlife too, because I want women to understand this about you too.
Yeah, well, midlife reinvention. I'm Lisa 2.0 right now. I feel like after 19 years of weighing over 220 pounds, I lost almost 100 pounds after navigating from heartbreak to lonely to unsatisfied to settling. Like, I think I visit every island, not just lonely and not just, you know, relationship, but all of the things in between as a woman, and as a woman who's looking to accelerate herself, to do something, to want to leave a legacy. Navigating how to have relationship and parenting and business. Like, those three just didn't even feel like they could live together, that I could have all of those. I didn't want all of one. I want all of those, nor did I want to have to choose. You know, being scared. My husband courted me through text for 8 years before I got the courage to give him a date. and a year ago at 55, I got married. And for the first time. And so I'm a new bride for the first time, living in a new country. I moved to the Bahamas. I got married. I lost 100 pounds. I decided that I wanted to really lean more into my personality and not just into the title called a transformational teacher. I'm like, I'm not just that. I'm so many things. And so I let my spice out. I set my saucy free, and I reinvented myself, and I rechose the things that were important to me that I never gave voice to. I found my voice. I found my voice enough to say, I'm ready for love. I found my voice enough to say no to things that may have made me a lot of money, but they didn't make me a lot of joy. I found my voice to say yes to things that I wanted. So this whole season is about not making your future pay for your past. And in this season of midlife, we know just enough to introduce the world to who she really is. But in order to do that, I think that there's an eloquent way where you speak to one or you speak to many. You spoke earlier, Natalie, about speaking on stage. And what I really want to be clear is I help women hone their voice for an audience of one, an audience of a video camera, an audience of social impact through social media. I believe in social impact, and I use social media as a medium to have social impact and social contribution. Whether it's a small room, a small team, I want to help women to every time you open your voice, you inspire, you impact, and you ignite a fire in someone, whether it's your children, whether it's Pete, whether it's your children, whether it's my son, Jelani, whether it's your nieces and nephews or your siblings, or whether it's a boardroom, or whether it's on the beach, or whether it's on a live stream, or whether it's on a stage. Every time we open our voice, every time we open our mouth and we use our voice, we have the right to create significant impact and to ignite a fire. And that doesn't happen naturally all the time, not with everyone. And it does have a system that can help you do it every single time. So that's what I know my legacy years. That's what this season is about. I was able to build my career, my brand, not knowing how to be a CEO, not knowing how to manage money, not being the smartest cookie in the cookie jar. But what I was what many regard as one of the most impactful speakers.
Which is so true and fascinating. One funny thing I always note about you, Lisa, I don't even know if I should say this right now, but I'm just going to say it anyway. You've helped me step into imperfection, and let me explain. I think of you as, I put you on a pedestal in a lot of ways. And when you've had like your team make a mistake or something wrong in an email, I kind of giggled at it, and I've thought, this is what she means by that. Your voice is so impactful. You're so good at what you do. You make such a difference in people's lives that none of that matters. Like literally none of it matters. And I want midlife women especially to hear this, because I think so many of us get caught up in perfection. They're like, oh, if I had the big team, if I had the perfect person, if I had this and that. And you've always led by, no, I'm going to be so uniquely good at what I do that the rest doesn't even actually matter.
Well, and you embrace my imperfection. Not only will I want to hit it spot on over there so well that you have more grace for me, because it's not a matter of if I'm going to make a mistake. And I'm not trying to prophesy that I'm going to make but it's when, because I am never going to master perfection. I'm simply going to learn how to masterfully master my imperfection. And so be really great at something, be extraordinary at something, so that you create space for all the grace that you need. And what I could do is help you own your voice. And I'm so excited when I look at women who have come to me, and I look at mothers, I look at CEOs, I look at entrepreneurs, I look at daughters who have come to me, and they have a passion. You have a passion. You have something that you're passionate about, whether it's yoga or meditation, or whether it's numbers, or whether it's helping women navigate their midlife conversations. And all you need to master to really move it forward is the art of communication, the art of powerful communication. You look at anyone on social media, any business, the businesses that forge forward. Now you have to learn systems and you have to learn all that other stuff. But if you don't, when you have that speaking down and when you can orate, you become the parade that has everyone following you, because people don't know what you do until they know how you speak. And the way you speak opens the door. I always say your ability to captivate an audience of one or many, with your voice and with your story, that's the front door to everything else you're doing, including your children, by the way.
What do you say to the woman listening right now that says, but I don't have a story, or I don't have anything to teach, or no one wants to learn from me? Because there's a lot of women that think this. What do you want them to know?
Absolutely. So I'll say to you, my sister, that even though the king and the queen of a village are the most feared, the griot is the most revered, and the griot is the storyteller of a community. And the griot is the most revered, honored, celebrated, because people live and learn through stories. And so, number one, you don't have to have anything to teach per se, though life will give you enough to teach. If you're listening to Natalie and my voice right now, you have lived, as my aunties would say, you have now officially lived long enough to share some lessons. And so while they're not structured lessons, there are lessons in life, and there are lessons in story. Now, to my sister who says, I don't have a story, I say, and when I do this in my classes, it just opens double doors for my students to go, do you have an incident? Do you have an incident or a moment when you felt doubtful, when you felt scared, when you felt alone, when you felt confused? That day you were walking down the street right after having pee, and you were just in that moment. That wasn't a story for you. It was an incident. It was a moment. When you learn the art, and what I teach is the art and science of speaking, the art and science of telling your story, the art and science of being impactful every time you open your mouth. When you put with that incident, one moment when you were scared, one moment when you were confused, one moment when you were at a crossroads, one moment when life seemed like it changed for you at 12 or at 9 or at 21. When you put the art and science of speaking, the techniques, 15 techniques, core techniques that I have around that, when you learn those, you're able to turn an incident into an experience, into a story, into a message. What would you do if you knew you can take the incidents of your life and you can, what I call unpack? You'll hear me say unpack a lot. You can unpack that incident, wrap around it some really key techniques that I teach, and you make each one of those 5 incidents 5 different stories that all inspire. I know that may sound like it's a reach, but please know that when I realize that there is a formula, an unmentioned, unshared formula to being an impactful speaker, I wanted to then share the formula with as many people as possible, because only the few have it right now, and the few glory, but I think everyone should have access to it.
This is so powerful what you're saying, because if you were to look at most speeches given, most people on a platform talking, they are teaching, they are not storytelling. And if you really are to separate the ones that are really impactful and making a difference with people, they're the storytellers. And it's wild because everyone's so focused on the teaching part. What am I going to teach?
Everyone has it twisted.
Yeah.
Everyone has it twisted. The biggest myth that lives today is that you can be regarded, revered, appreciated, and honored if you have more content. And while content is wonderful because it shows us the how-to, it's a myth. It's a myth, like the village. The king and queen of the village sat at the helm, and everyone feared them. Everyone respected them, but everyone waited on the griot to come out. Everyone followed the griot around the village, waiting for the griot, the storyteller, to sit down by the fire and tell the story. You can hear a pin drop. So if you were that person, and here's the other big myth, that you have to be born a great speaker in order to be an awesome storyteller. You have to be born a great speaker. You either have it or you don't. Natalie, that is a lie. That is not true. When 8 years ago, I locked myself in my office and I said, Lisa, what is it that you've done where you grew your brand? My brand was like a tsunami. You saw it. Yeah. I couldn't even keep up with it. I couldn't keep up with it. I didn't know a lot. I didn't know how to be a CEO. I didn't know. I couldn't believe I was on Oprah. And from Oprah, I was on Larry King. And then I was back on Larry King again. Then I was on Steve Harvey. Then I was on Dr. Phil. I didn't have a marketing plan for that. What happened was I told a story on each of those platforms. I told a story. When I looked up and I was on Steve Harvey for 22 minutes, but 3 minutes and 24 seconds of my interview went viral with 47 million views in 72 hours. The 3 minutes and 24 seconds was my story.
It's so wild, because here's what's coming up for me. And I just didn't even put this together till right now. Content is stolen, copied, and forgotten. Always. Like, I don't remember where
Say
I
it again, girl. Say it again.
I mean, no, it's stolen, copied, and forgotten. Like, I think about things that so many of us teach or that we listen to. We don't remember even where we got it from. We start thinking it was our own idea, but it's like, and then people are mad that, like, I taught that first, but like, it's the same stuff regurgitated, right? But storytelling is remembered and it impacts people, and it changes how people
always
feel.
yours. And it's always yours.
No one can copy it.
No. And when they repeat your story, now this is the life I'm living today. many people will repeat your story and they will always say, that's Natalie's story.
That's right.
When Natalie was, I hear people all the time say, Lisa Nichols had $11.42 and she had to wrap her son in a towel for 2 days. They tell my story over and over and over again. Your story is the only thing that's your unique DNA. So if you, when you become, and I'm inviting every sister listening, if you are listening to my voice, spend the next 12 months investing in how you tell a story, how you show up, how you ignite a fire, how you open up a conversation, how you close it in a crescendo versus a fizzle.
Okay, so Lisa, I know that you teach this incredibly because I am a student of yours. But what do you want people to know that are listening to you going, yeah, but you were kind of born with that voice. Yeah, but you have that, like, that's just natural for you. What do you want them to know? Because I think that is a real fear for people, like, but you already have the talent.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are a few people who have the natural talent, but then there's this huge body of individuals like yourself, like not you, Natalie, but anyone listening to me that may feel like you don't have it, that can gather the skill sets. And what I love is the outcome is the same. Let me give you an example. I talked about the art and science of speaking. I talked about the fact that there were these techniques, 15 core techniques, 20 total, but 15 core techniques. Let me give you one technique right now. And to my sister listening, watch when you do this and you land it, that means that you can do all the other ones too, right? So every audience that you talk to, an audience of one, whether it's your children, your spouse, your siblings, or an audience of many, they want to feel connected to you, correct?
Yes.
Right. So I have this audience connection formula. And I'm going to invite, the audience connection formula works every single time. There was a time when I doubted Lisa. I thought Lisa, she wasn't strong enough to make it happen. We all have a tendency to want something, but then we allow that doubt to kind of, seep in and slow our pace down. Has there ever been a time, and if that's you, type in chat, has there ever been a time
I know this, me, we, you.
Yeah, when you wanted to do something and you doubted? Exactly.
Yes, I love it.
Now you know the me, we, you. So what
Yes.
you just did was you just named the formula, me, we, you, audience connection formula. So you identified it. Now I've done it to you 1,000 times before and you didn't know it was coming.
No.
But when I showed you the formula.
And I've done it to all my audience now 1,000 times and they didn't know till just now.
Yes. Now here's what I just did. An audience wants to come with you, even if it's just your daughter, if it's your son, if it's your spouse, they want to feel like they're on the journey with you. So the audience connection formula is me, we, you. Write that down, me, we, you. And the way you do that is you start with, there was a time when and you enter a moment when you felt insecure or uncomfortable. There was a time when I doubted myself. We have a tendency to. That's the next sentence, write that down. We have a tendency to want something, but then question ourselves, whatever the ending is that you want to put. And then the last piece is, has there ever been a time when you? So those three beginning of the sentence helps the audience feel like they're on the climb with you. There was a time when we have a tendency to, have you ever had a moment when? If you can do that, which you can, that's one formula. All you have to do is learn each formula and do each formula. And all of a sudden, what you probably don't recognize, Natalie, you were a strong speaker before, but all of a sudden you get a bit stickier. People can connect to you more. People want to follow you more. People want to respond to you more. People they're not buying what you're selling. They're buying you. They choose you. And when they choose you, you then become a movement. And I truly believe that all the people in life that we want to be like, the Mahatma Gandhis, the Mother Teresas, the Dr. Martin Luther Kings, the Nelson Mandelas, they were able to make us feel like we were all in movement together. And so to my sis, I say, you got it in you.
And the other thing I want to share, because this is the big thing, because women will still say, but I don't know what to teach. It's like they just go right back to that. The other thing that I've heard, maybe I got this from you, maybe I got it from somewhere else. I don't remember. Because again, wherever we learn as a teaching thing, we don't remember where we got it from. But I heard once that teachers don't make money. People that make impact do. I mean, think about that, because people are so focused on being a teacher. That's not the person that truly not only makes money, but makes an impact. Teachers
Yeah.
are repeating
Yeah.
information.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. You want to have impact more than anything. You want your life to have impact. And I believe that impact, enough impact, begins to become rewarded with income. I
Mm.
don't pursue income. I pursue impact. And my income is a reflection of my impact. You want to be impactful at anything you do, whether you're selling technology. Listen, I taught these techniques to a botanical scientist,
Wow.
And she said, I don't want to be a speaker like you. I have no desire, Lisa. I simply want to give my scientific reports with more impact. I said, okay.
I
So
love that for her because we
right,
need that.
yes, I taught her the techniques. She goes to several conferences. She's at a conference and they cut her 40 minutes down to 20 minutes. And she utilizes the techniques I taught her. And at the end, she gets a standing ovation. And the lead scientist said, I felt like we weren't at a science convention, that all of a sudden you gave us a TED talk about science. And she's now become they call her the scientific storyteller or something. She has a whole new brand. And so this is that opportunity to hone your voice. This is that opportunity to own your voice. And this is that opportunity to further and in a greater way, share your voice. Every single one of us, if you can hear my voice, there's a story in your belly. There's multiple stories. And I invite you not to focus on teaching, but to focus on inspiring. Speak to inspire, not to impress. And
well,
so
that's powerful because we get in our heads about what people are going to think. That's an impress conversation.
And that's when you want to teach. If you open your mouth to inspire, I'll learn the lesson that I need to learn from your inspiration. And you don't have to give me a 1, 2, 3, a ABC yet. Just tell me your story. Tell me your story of questioning if you were enough, if wondering if today would be that day where you would get up for yourself and by yourself and on behalf of yourself. Show me the turnaround. We're in a dynamic time now where inspiration and hope is priceless. Tell me your story, but learn how to tell your story in such a way that you don't get stuck in it. Learn how to tell your story in such a way that you have the path so you can get in it and out of it. Learn how to tell your story in such a way where you know how to hit those high points. You even know how to identify those high points, but more importantly, you know how to navigate and talk about those low points. That's why I teach it. I teach speaking and I teach the techniques so no one gets stuck in their story, nor do they get stuck being afraid to share their story. Because the way you think you should share your story most likely is not the way it needs to be shared. And you only know the way you know your story. But as a coach and as someone that's been 27 years in this industry and that have transformed my life because of my ability to share stories, I understand now that there is a formula to how you share a story that will prevent you from getting stuck in the story and that will make sure that you land it in an inspirational way. What I think I do, Natalie, is I give you more of a guarantee that it'll work.
Yeah. So for those of you that have heard my story many times, when I talk about having that moment in the window, when I looked at myself and I literally like jump in the window with you when I'm telling it and say, Natalie, is this where we end up? I learned that from your technique. And I had told my story for years, but never did I get people to feel it with me until you shared how to do that.
Yep. And then understanding what to do with that power. When you have someone captivated by your story, there's also a responsibility. Like we're looking for hope. And I believe that you are someone's solution. You are someone's inspiration. You are someone's possibility. And the distance between them and you, the distance between you and them is simply your story and your language, that they don't know that you're their right fit person yet. Because a right fit person doesn't come from the intellect. A right fit person comes from your humanity, comes from your energy, comes from your integrity, comes from your determination, comes from your perseverance. I will respect you for what you know. I will follow you for how you make me feel.
What I also really learned from you, Lisa, it just helped me impact so many more women, because what I didn't realize before is I was telling a story from the other side. Like, I
Yep.
was telling stories from, oh, back then when this happened.
Yep.
What that does is doesn't fully connect people, because it feels like they're being talked to versus
Yep.
you're in it with them. So
Yep.
what I learned from you is to really get in there and go back to what it felt like in that moment, because that's where who you're talking with is right now.
So that's so funny you should say that, because even though I'm a coach of people who want to hone their voice and speak more powerfully, whether they're doing it with one, they're doing it on video, or they're doing it on stage, or they're doing it in the boardroom, though I'm that, what I am at my core, and I was for the first 20 years of my career, is a transformational coach.
Mm-hmm.
So I live, breathe, walk, talk. When I sweat, transformation comes from my pores.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's my jam. And so one of the, I believe, I would like to call it a benefit when I'm coaching on how to hone your voice, is all of the willingness and the permission that you get to give yourself. You get to learn how to give yourself, you to be back there again, because you trust her. Like, a part of it is a part of your vulnerability, a part of your transparency comes with the confidence that you won't get stuck there again. You won't be in sinking sand. So inside of my programs, there's an embedded sense of transformational work. There's embedded personal development work. Now, we're focused on speaking more powerfully,
Mm-hmm.
but I know in order to speak more powerfully, you have to be able to own more of your truth out loud. And so I know that that's not just a turnkey. You don't eat, you don't take a pill and that happens. You got to
We
do some
wish.
work.
We
Yeah, we
wish.
wish. Can I drink it? And
Yeah.
so in my programs, I have it embedded in so that while we're walking that journey, you just kind of feel more confident, like, what's going on here? I don't serve it to you straight, no chaser. It's kind of like a side dish, but it's a necessary side dish, because when you do that, to your point, you stop telling me the story and you get the courage to show me the story. You stop telling me the story from the rear view mirror, and you climb in the driver's seat of the vehicle in the story and you drive it with me. You're no longer pointing from the sideline. You jump in the frame. And when you can jump in the frame of your story, of your life, because someone's living where you've already been. And when you can grab her and show her, I was standing in the government's assistance line. I was crying saying, Lisa, how did you end up here?
Mm.
When I can paint that picture for you, you may not have been in the government's assistance line, but you've had a day when you had to count your money and you had to make a choice. Am I buying dinner or am I buying toiletries? Maybe you've had that. And if I open that story up enough, I'll say that word again, unpack. If I unpack that story enough, I do this thing called scooping. You know about scooping too, Natalie. I do this thing called scooping, where while I'm sharing my story, you find your story.
Because
And
that's
now,
the whole point, really, if you think about it. And if you really do want to have impact on people, it's not about us. It's about them seeing their selves in the journey, them finding where they can learn from you, where they can come out of where they were. That back to 15 years ago, when I was stuck in my low moment and you were speaking about vision, it wouldn't have connected to me had you not been sharing that you were once where I was.
right.
I heard that. And then what I remembered was the vision part.
Right. You don't want to hear about me saying, I have vision and I want to live in my vision. You want to hear about me saying, I could not see who I was becoming. I had no idea. I felt visionless. I felt blind with my eyes open. And I needed to give myself permission to see Lisa. I didn't know how, I didn't know where, I didn't know when, but I did know that I would one day give her vision. You can feel it,
Yes,
right?
even just right now, when you said that, it brought me right back to that is likely what I heard, what I remember, because it connects to our souls when you do that.
Now, what happens when you, sister, who's listening to me, you're not going to ever speak like me because you're going to speak like you. You never want to be a watered down version of someone else. I would love to have the opportunity to show as many people as possible, particularly women. I'm an advocate for women, how to take your voice and polish it to the next level, where you are not going to be me, but you become the better, best, next version of you. And you feel your growth. You feel that, because when you know that you can craft words powerfully, when you know that you can navigate the movement of a room, the movement of emotion, and the movement of excitement and inspiration, you'll actually speak more. Yeah. You'll actually speak up more. You'll actually own your voice more. But most importantly, Natalie, you'll own the calling on your life more. Because I believe that there's a calling on our life that we're still getting prepared for. I believe that there's a calling on your life that you don't have all the tools or all the skill sets for. You still have to go get something, because it's bigger than who you are now, but it's who you can become with the right skill set. Right. I believe that 20 years, 30 years from now, we, each one of us listening to my voice right now, we want to sit back and look back in our rearview mirror, and we want to be proud of the woman we grew to be. We want to be proud of her. We want to say we played full out. We want to say, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted from playing full out. And I truly believe with all my heart and soul that in order for you to play full out in whatever way your calling, the calling on your life is to play, you're going to need to hone your voice. Yes. And you're going to need to use your voice. I just believe it.
Now, what I love about you, Lisa, too, is you don't need to actually do coaching for women anymore. I mean, you've made it. Like, you really have. Like, you've got your books, you've got your talks, you've got your high end clients, you got all the things, right? You got their full resume, but you wanted to jump in and do this challenge for women. Can you talk to us about that? Because I was shocked when you told me you were going to do this. I'm like, wait, you're going to do what? And
I've never done this before. But I'm in my legacy season, quite honestly, Natalie. I've never done this before. I appreciate you. I love you too, sis, by the way. I love you. I love you. I love who you are as a human and as a mommy and as a wife and as a friend. For by the grace of God, I have a lot of opportunities that are effortless and don't require my presence. I would say that in order to maintain my livelihood. But I do believe that the calling on my life is, now that I know these techniques and now that I figured out how to give them to other people. Like, one thing was to have them for myself. Yeah. That was nice. But I don't want to be LeBron James. I don't want to be Michael Jordan. I don't want to be, may rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. I want to be Phil Jackson. And if you don't know who Phil Jackson is, Phil Jackson was Michael Jordan's coach. And Phil Jackson was Kobe Bryant's coach. I want to be the person that helps women hone their superpower. I want to talk to her when she knows she has something to say and she hasn't even figured out what it is yet, but I want to give her the superpower to, when you figure it out, like you, Natalie, when you figure it out, you're ready. And so I'm doing this challenge, 5-day challenge from August 21st through the 26th. I've never done it like this before, ever. My husband goes, "You're doing what? You're going back in the other direction, baby. You're ramping up." I was like, I just got to do this thing for my sister friends. I got to do this thing where they know where they can come. They can come and you find out, how do you uncover your voice? How do you discover your story? And how do you hone it and land it and unleash it in such a way that you blow your own mind? How do you do that? My job is to make it accessible. Your job is to choose to be present and in the room. And I, at least, Natalie, want to do my part. Because if I sit down with all of this in me, shame on me. Shame on me if I decide I want to go into semi-retirement or go into mass media, because quite honestly, I'm going into television. And that's where I'll spend a lot of my time. It's a natural graduation for me. But if I don't do this before I become more unavailable,
Yeah.
Shame on. I see it
I
as
love,
a
and
shame on.
I'm going to do it again, by the way, even though I've trained at the highest level with you individually, because I feel like I can just keep getting more and more and more. And I want to hear it again. Who is this for and who is this not for? Can you share that? And by the way, I'll put the link in the show notes, but it's midlifeconversations.com/voice. So midlifeconversations.com/voice. I'll put that in the show notes. But if you could tell us who's this for, who's this not for?
Absolutely. So this is for the woman who is in a season of her life where her voice matters. There's a lot at stake on her voice. There's a lot at stake on her knowing how to use it eloquently and powerfully. That based on where she is, people are following her, and she wants to use her voice in a way that can have the greatest impact in the shortest period of time. She doesn't have a lot of time. Time is a commodity for her that she needs to optimize her time. She wants to optimize her impact. She is either leading a team or she's creating something that will require her to lead a team. She can be an influencer and she wants to do more with her voice. She has had success, but she wants to do more with her voice. And she wants to do more, and she knows honing her voice is a part of that more.
Lisa, so if, just to clarify, let's say somebody was in corporate or they were doing something on their own, then they took a kind of a break, raised kids, did all of that, but they're like, there's something more. Is that somebody this would be for too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because in the more that she finds, the first part of being a magnet to that thing that she's discovering or has already discovered is going to be her voice.
Okay.
Same with you. Like same with you. Like you have this beautiful, amazing life, and you decided, hey, this is where my calling is. Everything about your pivot has to do with your voice. So the key for her to recognize is in a clear strategy, her voice, mastering the ability to enroll. I'm going to be very clear.
Well, that's an important one.
Yeah. She wants to master the ability to enroll. She also, either now or in the future, is going to want to master the ability to convert. Meaning she wants people to move from being a follower to being a student or being a participant at some point, either now or then.
When I learned from you, learning from you, moved people. I used to have people come up to me after I'd speak and say, you inspired me. You made me feel good. Great. I learned something. It was always, you inspired me, you made me feel good. I learned something. Now it's, how do I learn more from you? How do I work with you? It's moved, it's changed.
Let me just be very clear. And I'm not all about money, but I am a businesswoman. The difference in those two statements is intentional. I used to get a line of 100 people just to hug me. Just to hug me. And next to me was Jack Canfield with a line of people to register for his programs. And no one told me how to shift. For years, I'm like, how do I get that line? And I figured it out. And time over time, we have more people wanting to get on our platform than we have space for. And I want to share that. There is a secret sauce to impact and conversion. And I want to share that. She needs to want to know that. Who this is not for. Because it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. It's not for the person who is comfortable being stuck. And that's just kind of how life is for you. No judgment, but it's just kind of like, I'm okay with at mediocre. I'm okay at, I want to live at a C level. I'm okay with that. No judgment to that. No judgment. However, this isn't for you. This is for those who want to ignite fire, who want to run, who want to create impact at whatever your pace is. Okay. Not my pace, not Natalie's pace, but whatever your pace is. It's not for someone who feels like they're unteachable. I believe everyone is teachable. So good. I will break it down to you. So just side note, I'm functionally dyslexic. I don't say that with any shame. I call it my superpower. Because I'm functionally dyslexic, I teach thoroughly because I teach to me. And so if you consider yourself teachable, then I and my team really feel strongly about what you can learn, but you have to first consider yourself teachable. And the last person that this isn't for, it's not for the person who isn't ready for growth. You have to be ready for growth, and you have to be willing to be in action for it. This is no potion lotion. This is no sprinkle fairy dust. There's no magic wand involved. I'm not going to rub this over you and instantly you have changed and you have the impact of powerful communication. You must be willing to do your own crunches, your own sit-ups, your own lunges. I will teach you how. I will show you what to do. I will revisit it. You will have the ability to be coached directly by coaches. We have a powerful community of one-to-many and then intimacy, because I like intimacy. And I also like learning from a group and listening to what they're saying. So I created this multi-tiered space. And when you join me and when you join us, and it's free, best price in town, free 99, free 99, best price in town.
Can I ask you why you did it free? Because this is an interesting question, and I'll ask why free. And I'm going to say this because I do a lot of free things, but what I've noticed sometimes is when people pay, they pay attention. They pay more. So sometimes I go back and forth with why, like I'll do a free class, let's say, and 2,000 people will sign up and then like 500 will show up. And I always think like, well, maybe if I charged they would have paid attention more. Yeah. I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
I can answer that very easily. Yeah. I'm doing it for the 500. It's like, so I'm wearing this ring, this starfish ring, right? Cheap little ring I got in Turks and Caicos.
Oh, I know what you're about to say. I'm excited.
Yeah, I do it for the 500 because in the 500 is the one starfish. Yeah. And you know the story about the little boy or the old man, whichever way you've heard the story, that was walking down the beach, and there were thousands and thousands of starfish on the beach. And this little boy was picking up one starfish at a time, throwing it back in the water. And the old man came and goes, "Son, why are you throwing the starfish back in the water? There are thousands of starfish. You can't save them all." And he picked up another starfish and said, "No, I can't save them all, but I can help this one." And so this is my starfish. So I make it free so I can find the 500. I never made it free so that I can get the 2,000. Or I made it free so I can get to 2,000 and not the 5,000. Whatever it is, I want to remove every barrier from her to just show up and allow me, give me, if you give me your time, I'll give you my value. And then you choose. I believe that we get to choose our mentors and our teachers now. I believe that in this day and age, there's a little bit of show me what you got before I fully vest in, maybe. And 5 days together, it's not 5 8-hour days, it's 5 2-hour days. And let me be a shot in the heart of love and excitement at the beginning of your day, if you're on the West Coast, or in the middle of your day, if you're on the East Coast, or at the end of your day, if you are from another region. Let me be that 2-hour shot in your heart of love and possibility. And if for no other reason, I truly believe by the end of the week, you will feel expanded and inspired. And then
so good. Who doesn't want to feel expanded and inspired? Okay, go to midlifeconversations.com/voice. I'll put all of this in the show notes. I will be doing the challenge too. I want to learn more. I always love being in your presence, and I want those 2 hours a day to feel inspired and impacted and all of those things. Thank you so much, Lisa. This was fabulous. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, sis. So I want to celebrate you for holding the space for us women. I'm 57 this year, and I love navigating this journey, and I love navigating with women who know what it feels like to be in this part of the journey. So thank you for the space you hold. Thank you for the transparency that you come with. Thank you for the perfect imperfection that you dance around.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for being one of my right fit humans.